Hello, I'm Martin Kelly, senior editor of Friends Journal, and with me today is Su Penn. And Sue has an article in the current issue of Friends Journal. It's Books and Writing. This is our issue where we have extended book reviews. And for the last couple of years, we've been trying to have some stories about the writing process and the creative process. So we have this, and your article is near the front and has pictures of chickens. So thank you for coming, Sue. And why does it have pictures of chickens?
Because it's about writing as a chicken. I suck at this,
Yeah.
Martin.
Do you feel the inner chicken? You have the birds behind you here for everyone to see.
I do. I have parrots. They're not
Yeah.
chickens. They're not the same.
Yeah.
But the chicken picture and the egg picture is because I ended up writing this thing sort of late at night in a very, what I keep calling a very fey mood. And it ended up being about this idea that the ideas for writing come from a kind of chicken pecking around in my brain and laying eggs. And every now and then one of the eggs is an especially good one and it turns into something on the page, which now that I describe it out loud like that sounds odd. But
Well, no, I like I liked how at the gathering the talk. Now was this? Am I remembering rightly when you were being introduced? And I guess it was Lucy Duncan was saying you're the have elevated the Facebook status update to an art form. And there's something so everyday about that, and every day about the chickens, and you also we let you get away with footnotes. Now it's Friends Journal policy for 57 years not to have any kind of citations or footnotes, but we let you get away because the footnotes are all about the chicken and egg process. Um, I like the one about the Alice Toklas. Tell us that one.
this is one of my favorite stories. 25 years ago or something, I read the autobiography of Alice B Toklas, which of course was written by Gertrude Stein. And I don't remember much about it, except all these artists always coming over to the house. And Gertrude would bring them home, and Alice would have to feed them. This is their arrangement. And she would feed them eggs because eggs are cheap, right?
Hmm.
And if she liked the people that Gertrude brought home, she'd make omelets.
Right.
But if she didn't like the people that Gertrude brought home, she'd make scrambled eggs. And it was just this like, the eggs cost the same, but there was something about that little extra effort for the omelet people that just sort of was a subtle way for Alice to say, "I'm happy these people are here. I'm not so happy about these people." And
Right.
the other night, my partner David made me an egg, and as I was eating it, he said, "Well, you know, if I really liked you, I'd have made an omelet."
Oh, I'm sure he really liked you. But yeah, there's all sorts of things in omelets you can do. So I'm vegan, I must admit, but I make omelets because I love my wife, and so I'll make her omelet sometimes. And there's ways you can sort of make the omelet that it sort of, uh, I don't know, tastes better. There's ways of chopping it up. I've gone on YouTube and looked on how to make the omelets, and but there's something about the whole putting effort into Facebook status updates and putting efforts into making like your whole life kind of literary almost. Do you feel that, or because a status update, you're going to reach a few hundred people maybe, depending on Facebook's mood that day, and you talk about the grand statement of a writer, some of David Foster Wallace or something, making a wanting to change the world, but sometimes you're just making an omelet for people.
You just said one of the nicest things anyone has ever said to me about my writing, which is making my whole life literary. Because I have really struggled as a writer with the narrow scope of what I do. I became a writer and I did a Master of Fine Arts at Goddard College, which was in the early 90s, which was a sort of very was all gay and lesbian and feminist and political, and the idea that you were doing something really important with your writing, that ideally you were going to change the world with your writing, that it was going to be a force in the world and all of this sort of thing. And I wanted to be that writer. I wanted to write the important stuff that somehow would really change things. And that never turned out to be me. I tried to write fiction. I tried to write a novel. That was a disaster. And what I've turned out to be really good at is doing stuff, anything, taking my kid to the grocery store, going on a trip, whatever, and noticing things and writing about them. And so my biggest literary output since I first moved away from home at 17 has been letters. And I actually had someone, the owner of a small publishing company, tell me that this was a waste of time, that it was a waste of time to write things
These are
like that.
letters on paper with a pen.
They used to be.
All
I
right.
do email
You
now.
do email. Okay, email
Yeah,
letters.
but yeah, I used to send off, oh God, reams and reams and reams of letters to people. And because I get a lot of pleasure from noticing and putting it into words and sharing it with someone. I really love to tell people about things, what's going on in my life. And I like to hear other people's stories too, but I really love to tell people what I see and what's going on. It's really satisfying for me. And it's hard to make something huge and life changing out of that. But the people who follow me on Facebook do indeed enjoy me on Facebook, and people like to get my letters. And so, and what you just said about making my whole life literary, that is a way of framing that doesn't say, oh, Sue somehow failed at being a writer or failed at getting her work out there, as much as it says that my writing is really integrated with the life I'm living, which I think is a nice way to think about it. Thank you.
Sure. Well, and there's all sorts of, when you think about a magazine, it's like, well, we have this many readers. We could have that many readers. We could have so many readers. I used to be more of an activist, and,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be the one that changes the world, where maybe just changing, a few lives is just as important.
You know, David and I just had a domain name expire because we forgot to renew it. And it was a cobweb page. It was something we put up in like 1996 and haven't updated since 97. But we've been maintaining it, paying the domain fees every year for no special reason. And it literally expired like 2 weeks ago. And within a week, I had gotten a message from someone, a Quaker, saying that he missed a piece that used to be there. I had given a speech to Friends for Lesbian and Gay Concerns, as it was then in 1999. And in all those years, he has repeatedly come back to this speech on this Cobb website to read it. And in the 2 weeks since our domain expired, he went to try and read it and didn't find it and emailed me to say, is it ever going to be back up? And
Right.
so I'm going to email him a copy. But, you don't know. You don't know that somebody's carrying around your words like that. You don't get that immediate feedback. I don't even know this person. So there's no way I would have known that somebody was still reading that piece on that website and that it mattered to them.
It's,
So,
it's always there.
yeah.
Uh, does it relate to parenting? Because that's another thing, and you've written articles on parenting too for us. Because parenting, you're putting all that effort into sort of one or two, sort of small packages. Um,
Well, you said you used to be an activist. I used to be an activist in a really, it was my life kind of way. And you feel that sometimes with parenting, where you're putting all this energy into your kids, and you think, I'm doing all of this for one, two, three people when I could be out there doing something that makes everybody's lives better,
yeah,
right?
yeah, sure.
And it feels like a very selfish undertaking sometimes, even as they're taking everything out of you and you have nothing left for yourself some days. But I also think that, parenting is one of the ways that you change the world. I look at I have a kid who's 13 now, and some of his friends are growing up to be the kind of men who will like go out there and and be different men in the world, and like that changes things. There's a lot of talk in the culture right now about street harassment and rape culture, and I look at some of my kids friends who are going to grow up, and they already are starting to get that, and they're going to go out there and they're going to be different, and I really think that, and so that matters.
Yeah, great. Well, we're probably starting to run out of time, although we should just keep going. We maybe we'll make a regular podcast of this. But this is the kind of podcast I love, where people just sort of banter back and forth. But again, folks can read the piece here in the current Friends Journal, Books and Writing, friendsjournal.org, and folks can subscribe, and hopefully we'll have more Su Penn in the future, and maybe with footnotes. Maybe we'll have the sort of Su Penn exclusion where you're allowed to have footnotes.
Oh, that would be great because
We'll see.
those just started out as notes to you, but it's nice that they ended up in the magazine.
Yeah, well, they're my favorite part of the piece is the footnotes, and I just like, oh, let's continue, and if you want to write more, you can add them as comments to the piece since it's up
Awesome.
online. So,
Oh, that's cool.
thank
I
you
might
for
do that.
all right. It can keep it being a narrative that continues, and even 10, 20 years, hopefully, we'll keep the domain name going, and people can read this, and you can keep adding footnotes. So thanks, Sue, for being on with us today, and
You're welcome.
for writing, and for showing us your bird friends there,
They
showing
were
them
good.
with. Yeah, they were very good. Didn't squawk too much,
No.
and again, thanks again. FrenchJournal.org. The November issue is books. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Martin.
Bye.